And so this is where you get to see kind of right in front of you how there's different views of the DRDP. Most of you will only be using the DRDP 2015 preschool view and the DRDP infant toddler view. Some TKs might be using DRDP. Most, unfortunately, won't. They'll just pop right over to just using the Common Core standards. Okay? So we have two views, but it's one instrument. Okay? So when we take a look at the instrument, we have some measures within the instrument that are called full continuum measures. So when we think of something as being a full continuum, what kind of imagery does that bring to mind? What would you guess or read from right on there?
It's ongoing and it measures everything.
Yeah. So a full continuum measure goes from infant and toddler all the way up through preschool. Okay? It's got that 7 to 9 levels that start in infancy, and you're able to assess and measure all the way up through the end of preschool. Okay? Earlier development measures consist of 5 to 6 levels that describe development that typically occur in the infant, toddler, and early preschool years. So these are measures that you're going to see almost exclusively in infant, toddler view. Some of them you'll see in the earlier developing preschool view, but the earlier developmental measures are most consistently only in the infant, toddler. But they're still included in the preschool. You're just not able to rate them because they keep that consistent. Okay? So later development measures consist of 6 levels that describe development that typically occurs in preschool years and early kindergarten. So will you be able to rate these developmental measures if you were just to have the infant toddler tool? No, because it's a later development measure. Okay? So looking at this, and I'll turn the lights, is this a full continuum, a later developing, or an early developing?
Full.
Full. Why is it a full?
Because it goes from responding to integrating.
Okay, so we see all of the levels present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so all of those levels we're able to assess the child on. Okay, so this is what one looks, and we're going to break down what each of these things means in just a second. All right, what is this? Is it a full, an early, or a later?
Early.
What tells you it's an early? We can't rate it in these later developing categories, right? This is later, most likely in preschool. So we have these in infancy. Now, does that mean that if you're rating a 4-year-old that you might not, does that mean that if you're rating a 4-year-old, they'll never be down here? No. This is what makes it a universal design in a full continuum. You might have a 4-year-old that is down here in these early developing continuums. Okay, early developing milestones. All right, which one's this one? A later developing. Now, some of the later developing will start creeping in over here, but this responding earlier is really in the reflexive stages of infancy. Okay, so if it's a later developing, you won't see it over here, but you still might see it in this exploring earlier category. Okay, because if we look at the typical preschool, you can have 2.5-year-olds all the way up to 5.5-year-olds. So the later developing continuums, you're really going to see them creep more into the toddler area. Because the 2.5-year-olds, some to me act more like preschoolers, and some are really still toddlers. Okay. So when we take a look at the preschool view, there's 8 domains and 56 different measures. Okay? All 3 types of measures are included. And I'll clarify what that means in just a second. So this is one of the things that I really like that they do in the DRDP, is they have the measures at a glance. So if we align these to the preschool, to the foundations, what does that little puzzle piece represent?
To learning self-regulation.
You guys know what that means in the foundations? So this one means, yeah, approaches to learning and self-regulation. But if you were to open up the foundations, maybe we'll back up and we'll do that till later. If you were to take a look at the foundations, then you'll be able to, just by matching up the icons, coordinate to the developmental domain. Okay? So how many different developmental domains are represented in the preschool view of the DRDP? 8, right? Approaches to learning, self-regulation, social and emotional development, language and literacy development, English language development, cognition including math and science, physical development, history and social science, and visual and performing arts. Now those of you that have used the DRDP, the previous versions of the DRDP, what was not present in those previous, in any way, shape, or form?
The history of social science was not, I think the visual and performing arts.
Exactly, and the visual performing arts wasn't, and numerous of these weren't present,
Yeah.
different measures, okay? So they've broken it up much differently to align with the foundations better, okay? So these are the 8 developmental domains. The infant toddler view has 5 domains and 29 measures. So if you were to just utilize, if you were to just utilize the infant toddler view, then you would only have 5 developmental domains and 29 measures. The English language development measures are not present in the infant and toddler. They're only present in the preschool view. Okay?